What were you thinking you were going to do as a young man?
So I don't know that I had a big aspirational kind of career path, except for that I was like, I want to be rich. And growing up in a lower middle class family, like you recognize the restraints that money can put on a family. And I was fortunate that I got into a couple classes that were they called them advanced classes. They were really just opportunities to think outside the box. I got to do an internship when I was in like fifth grade, like all these unique things. And I feel like it opened my eyes to like, what I want to do isn't here, or at least isn't present in my life. I don't know what it is. It's just going to be something different. That coupled with the fact that I always had this entrepreneurial spirit, like it's kind of like I could figure this out. I'll find unique ways to make money that excite me. Propelled me into what I ended up doing. I could not have mapped out my career path though. So I go to Chicago and I refuse to get a 9 to 5 type gig. I ignorantly felt like my experience was more than that, right? I wasn't going to take some entry level corporate job. And that was fine in theory until a couple months in, I had credit card debt racked up, and it's like, I got to figure out a way to pay bills. And you know what really tipped the scale was there was one day where I could not pay rent. And my now wife, girlfriend at the time, cut me a check to cover rent. And I was like, man, I really got to do something now. From my promotions career, I had collected a lot of contacts and business cards. One of them was a guy that was involved in a startup vodka company. And long story short, I bugged him, literally email and call every day until he gave me a job. And that's what got me into beverages.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you have this kind of persistence.
So I started selling vodka for this company, and they put me in quite possibly the most difficult situation that you can have, which is on premise, which is bars and nightclubs and restaurants in Chicago. I did that for a couple months. Then he started expanding my responsibilities. So I managed off premise, which is stores, grocery stores, liquor stores, whatever it may be in Illinois. And then they expanded me to 5 states. And at that point, I realized that I understood at least enough the distribution game. You know, in alcohol, it's a 3-tier system. So you have the supplier, which is the creator of the product. You have the distributor, which takes the product to the bars or the store. And then you have the retail location. And so I understood that. I met enough people, and I was selling a lot of the vodka that was being mixed in with Red Bull. I was 25. I was out also drinking a lot of vodka mixed in Red Bull. And so I said, you know, maybe we should try to do this as a combination ready to drink product. And so I called my old college buddy and I said, hey, I'm thinking of starting this thing. And he's like, yeah, I'm in. He was part-time in it. Couple months in, we realized neither of us really wanted to do the financial modeling and decks. And I had a buddy who worked for ABN AMRO. I called him and I said, hey, what do you think? Yeah, I'm in. And that's how we got started.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, everyone had told me at the beginning, like, make sure you understand the exit. How do you guys separate in the future? And being naive 25-year-olds, I think we just blew past that. Hey, we're friends. Who cares? It'll all work out. And quite frankly, like I assumed I was kind of the connection point, right? I brought the two guys together. I assumed I would always kind of be in the majority with one of them, and it wasn't really a big deal. First of all, partnerships are hard. Really need to think about how your skill sets complement each other. And for us in the early days of that company, it was kind of like, let's just divide and conquer. And we brought in a business coach when the company got bigger, and he identified that that was a significant threat to the business quickly. He said, you guys have a 3-headed monster with no real hierarchy. And if you can't figure this out, you're going to sink the business. And it was too big for us to sink at that time. So that's never that fun, but it was much easier.
It was a little bit more black and white, right?
That's right. That early stage of 1 million to 10 million is challenging, but it's a lot of fun because you're celebrating a lot of wins often, right? And you're trying new things, and you're able to be scrappy and atypical in your approach and things like that. But it's difficult, right? Because it really matters. I mean, we were at Phusion, we were almost out of business for the first 2 years consistently, right? Month over month. There were times where we didn't take salaries. And so those are different challenges than when we went into hyper growth, when we grew from 8 to 150 plus in 2 years. Like, those are different challenges. Those challenges are like, how do you keep your materials coming in? How do you keep inventory? How do you scale fast enough to support this kind of growth, right? And then you're really putting in more infrastructure and more systems. Prioritization is really important. And for me, this is the season of life that my family is absolutely the number one priority. I'm married. I have 3 kids, 11, 9, and 6. And when I sat back and thought about it, I realized that I will always be able to create brands. I will always be able to grow them. And while I'm not neglecting them, I also realize that my children will only be this age once. And so when I have something that I can do for the long run, and I have another thing that is only once, I'm going to make sure that I prioritize and focus on that only once thing.
I love that too. Yeah. I can definitely appreciate that with a 2-year-old and a 8-month-old right now. It's also a man-to-man trench warfare at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, I have 3, so we went in the zone.
You definitely went into the zone.
If you have this perception of getting rich and retiring on a boat, get rid of it right now, because you will be drunk, you will be addicted, you will be divorced, and you will be miserable. And that's just my personality, right? And so that was really impactful to me, because it helped me realize, like, where I grew up, the success looked like, oh, you get to retire on a beach, drink a margarita, and you don't have any worries. That would actually be detrimental to me. And so success means that I can stay in the mix, work on things I want to work on, not need to work on anything, but enjoy what I'm doing every day, staying active. And I think that not only will keep me healthy, it'll keep me alive. In the big picture, yes, I don't ever have this vision of being inactive in something, because I need to, what I enjoy now is growth, and growth is not comfortable. Be willing to take risks and just take the first step. I will caveat that by saying the biggest mistakes I've made in my career have all been when I thought it was going to be easy, when I didn't put in the work, and I wasn't going to be committed for the long haul. So I think there's real value in really digging into what you're about to do, or what you're considering doing, what you think it's going to take. Do you want to do it? Asking yourself all those questions up front, but don't get paralyzed by analysis. Take the first step, because whatever plan you put together or whatever path you think you're going to take, it's absolutely going to be wrong on day one. So just jump in, just start, be open to making mistakes, be open to learning and course correcting, right? Because progress is the key. There is no perfection.
And don't lie to yourself and know that it's probably going to be hard.
Right. I mean, you put this plan together and you say, oh, this is going to be a 5-year plan. And within a month, it's wrong. It's only really a failure if you don't learn from it. And so, we choose to look at life as life is happening for us, not to us. And so when you look at things through that lens, what could be perceived as a failure or a setback can also be perceived as the best redirect you could ever have. And that one that you may not have chosen or purposely self-imposed, but it was imposed for a reason. And so if you look for that reason and you go with the idea that life is happening for me, you can start to find the silver linings and the beauty in it.
Life is happening for you. I really like that one. I'm going to take that with me.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. And to stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst Podcast, and on Twitter at Catalyst_Action. And thanks for listening.